See if we in this thing. We got something to talk about today. Spotify. Spotify. And we're going to go ahead and really go through it. We're going to go ahead and really go through it. Man, Joe Rogan. All these Joes. All these people with the name of Joe. In some sort of newsworthy position right now. All of them at the top of their game and whatever their game is. Interesting. Let me see if this is on. Okay. I see my thumbnail. I made a better thumbnail. I had what was right here on the screen. Right here. This was the thumbnail, but it was too big, and I didn't want to try to do all the extra resizing it real quick. All right. If you do come in, when you come in, if you come in, however you come in, whenever you come in, please hit the like button. Hit the dislike button. Shit, hit something, but not a person. One of these buttons. Hit it when you come in, my friend. Let me get this over here. Hope you guys are having a good Friday. Joe Rogan, India Arie, Joe Budden, and Neil Young. What do they have in common? They are mad at somebody right now. And that person, well, it's not a person, it's an entity, Spotify. It is Spotify. I'm sharing this over here to these other social media networks. See what we could do. Maybe we could get some people to join in on the conversation this evening. It's Friday. Decided I wanted to put on a nice button-up shirt. It was a conscious decision. I said, put on a nice button-up shirt. Yeah, and if you guys are in here, say something. You guys know what's going on with this whole situation with Spotify and Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has had a lot going on with him as of late. He has been in the news a lot because he has been having people come on his show who don't agree with what the government is dishing out when it comes to COVID. How are you doing, Chopper? They don't disagree with what the government is putting out at this point in time. And so I don't want to get too much in the weeds in that because I don't want them, eventually one day taking down this video because I'm talking about the vids when I'm not really talking about the vids. It's about something else. But either way it go, he has controversial people on his show. And I don't like the word controversial because sometimes controversial just means that they're not going along with the popular narrative. And there we go. He has people come on his show that don't go along with the government sanctioned narrative on what's going on right now, as far as what's going on. You know what I'm talking about. And so the media has been on him. They've been on him. The president of the United States and the White House have pressed on Spotify to have him removed or to have him censored to a sense. I got to get all into that, but they want him censored. And then Neil Young, this guy right here, Neil Young comes out and he says, you know what? I want all of my music off of Spotify. Neil Young wants all of his music off of Spotify. You see, I have this right here from CBS. Let me move me over right here real quick. I have all this from CBS. Neil Young reportedly asked Spotify to remove his music over Joe Rogan's vaccine comments. So Neil Young is like, I want to get off of Spotify. I want you guys to take all of my music off of Spotify. Joe Rogan is spreading misinformation, all of this stuff, right? And so that's one aspect of it. We got a lot. It's a lot going on right here. And there's a lot of different turns, and Joe Rogan is a key factor in all this. And at the same time, so is Joe Budden. Even though Joe Budden currently isn't in this story, he has been saying things about Spotify for a while, and I think it all kind of ties in. But where we really gonna start at, we're gonna start here with India Arie. India Arie, her reasoning for wanting to have her music taken off of Spotify is completely different than Neil Young. That's why I started with Neil Young. We're going to leave Neil Young right there. Right there. Put a pin in Neil Young for a minute. Just know he wants his music off because he's saying that Joe Rogan spreads misinformation when it comes to the virus. So now we're over here to India Arie, R&B singer, some neo-soul singer, beautiful singer, and she got something to say. So we're going to get over here and we're going to see what India Arie have to say. And if you haven't seen this, take your time. Make sure you guys are listening. Make sure you're sitting down. And if you're in Joe Rogan fans, take your time. Make sure you're listening. Oh, yeah, I didn't even start the show. Welcome to Soapbox Heroes. My name is Tyrone Irvin. Now I'm going to skip back to where we were. We're going to get all into this right here. India Arie has a statement about Spotify and Joe Rogan. And I had to sit back. I didn't know all this. I just started paying attention to Joe Rogan during the pandemic. So, we're about to get into this. Let's listen to what she has to say about this situation.
Hey, y'all. I want to leave a short message here about why I decided to ask my music be pulled off of Spotify. So check this out.
No white people. It says, okay, take me to this one. And the guy goes, okay. I goes, is that in a good neighborhood? He's like, oh, yeah. Guy barely speaks English. He takes us there. We get out. And we're giggling. Oh, we're going to see Planet of the Apes. We walk into Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door, and there was no white people. It says, okay, take.
I empathize with the people who are leaving for the COVID disinformation reasons, and I think that they should. I also think that Joe Rogan has the right to say what he wants to say. I also think that I have the right to say what I want to say. So as an artist who builds, Spotify is built on the back of the music streaming. So they take this money that's built from streaming and they pay this guy $100 million, but they pay us 0.003% of a penny. Just take me off. I don't want to generate money that pays this. Just take me off. That's where I'm at. And I know that I'm actually, to be honest with you, surprised that my statements were picked up because I thought people weren't really going to listen to me because that's what I'm used to from the industry. But I'm glad that I am being heard, and for that reason, I want to clarify my statements. Again, this is why. Watch this.
The
nigger thing.
Yeah.
Saying the word nigger.
You've already said nigger.
D is just like nigger. Saying nigger.
She's calling you a nigger. It's like this
Boy, that he's a nigger, but starts calling them niggers. Word nigger. There should be a word like nigger, especially like the word nigger. That's our nigger. About niggers. He says nigger. Guy, a nigger. And there are niggers. Start saying nigger. Allowed to use the word nigger. Out the word nigger. See nigger. Word nigger. Say nigger, and you couldn't say nigger. Most nigger.
So we know how social media can be. Things can be doctored. People are taken out of context. It's happened to me many times. However, I want to be clear in no uncertain terms. Where I stand on this is that he shouldn't even be uttering the word. Don't even say it under any context. Don't say it. That's where I stand. It's my right to stand there. I have always stood there. I have other feelings about it, but those are nuances that are not meant for this moment. He shouldn't even be saying it.
And hold on. And when India Arie says he shouldn't even be saying it, as a freedom of speech thing, I think he can say it. But when it comes down to morality, the way that you make people feel, and the impact of the word, I agree with India Arie. I just want to put that out there right now because I do think that you should be able to say as you want to say. But do I think he should be able to without some type of consequence. See, freedom of speech means you can say what you want to say and you're not going to be persecuted. You're not going to go to jail. You're not going to go to prison. But you can be fired. You can, be marginalized for opportunities that you would normally have for saying certain things, because we've seen that with all kind of people. So I want to give India Arie one of these. And I agree with that 155%. Let me get back to it.
And so the confluence of energies comes into play here. So now we have this person who is offensive to a lot of people, who's paid $100 million. Spotify, the backbone of Spotify is the music. So you pay the musicians that are the backbone of your.
And I'm gonna let you in on where Joe Budden's come in right now. You hear how she says that, but you guys can pay Joe Rogan $100 million, and you're getting the money off the back of the artists, of the musicians. Now, mind you, Joe Budden, who is both a podcaster and a musician, a rapper, a musician, who was on the Spotify podcast lineup, helped create and, in my view, build out the Spotify podcast lineup. And he had to leave and go do his own thing. And people were calling him crazy, and they even tried to make him look bad. And his thing was like, they're not giving me my value. And so that's where Joe Budden's come in, because I'm going to get to some of Joe Budden's clips and some of the stuff that he had to say. We here tonight. We locked in. And so we're going to go back to Joe Budden's and see how he kind of ties in and with what's going on right now. Let me get back over here to India.
Business. 0.003 to 0.005% of a penny, and you take this money that you generate over here, because all the rest of it goes somewhere. The subscription fees go somewhere. So you take this money that's generated over here and you use it to invest in this guy. Do what you want, but take me off, or pay me too. And I don't just mean me, I mean us. Artists like me, pay us too. Pay podcasters of color too.
That's where Joe Budden comes in. You see him over there like this. This picture almost looked like he knew that eventually he was going to be like, I told you. I told you.
So Artist Relations from Spotify called me yesterday, and they asked me what I want, and I've been thinking about this all night. I'm not going to say it all here, but what I want to say to you is something that I already knew, but I want you to know that
Aaron
they
Holmes.
said it last night. Most of the streams on Spotify are Black music, but we know that if you're paying attention at all, you understand the role of Black music in this world. So that's a deeper nuance.
All right. Now, she had a lot to say, and that was, wow. It was it was hard to listen to some of what Joe Rogan was saying, because, like I said, as of late, I started to not listen to Joe Rogan. I like listening to some of his guests. I actually enjoyed some of the doctors that he brought on and some of the different experts that he brought on as of recent when it's come to the current global situation that we have going on. Now, do I sit and just watch Joe Rogan? I've never thought he was the most brilliant guy in the world. And so I, like I said, it's more about watching his guests, because he does have people on there that go against the mainstream media and the government's narrative right now. And so I didn't know. I was like, well, I tried to wonder. Well, I would wonder why he would elevate and, to the extent that he has, because I would see him on different news outlets, even a lot of internet channels and stuff. I even noticed that there are a lot of other podcasters and stuff that really, really love Joe Rogan. love Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan can't do no wrong to a lot of people. And they make content about Joe Rogan. And even in the lexicon of the whole bigger news media, Joe Rogan has become a topic of conversation in the regular news media, on the mainstream media. They talk about Joe Rogan. So it's like it's his information. It's not even necessarily his information. That's the key. It's the guests that he brings on, their information against whatever the government narrative or the media's information. And so that's where we're getting that clash. I remember, and when I really, really started looking at him is when the whole thing came out about a certain thing, Ivor, I'm not going to say the rest, but, you know, they were saying that it was horse medicine. He was saying that he took it. Bam. That's where he really, really like caught my eye. And I was thinking to myself, like, man, this guy is really, really going against the grain. This guy is really trying to put information out there. So that's one part of it. It's one part of it. The other part of it is this. What India Arie put out today, I didn't know that he had said those sort of things. And if you guys watch this show, or if you know me, if you guys go through and look, you'll see that what comes to my mind is always this. Let's find out. Because India Arie did show clips. And I am always going to lend my ear and, okay, India, I'm taking it very serious. But India Arie said herself that people only show clips sometimes. But then she showed the clip of when he was talking about when he went to the movies. And I said, well, you know what? Some things are beyond excusable. And so many things come to mind, like, at a time like this, when Whoopi Goldberg can get suspended for saying what she thinks, and Joe Rogan can go over to Spotify, will get picked up to Spotify and make $100 million saying things that are way worse than that are literally inexcusable. And so I still had to go and listen to some Joe Rogan, because I like to take the clips that people talk about and play them in length so I can get the full context, because sometimes they may be referring to something else and just saying the word in reference, or reading the title of a book, or saying this person said this word. And when it comes to the word nigger, I don't know. It's a slippery slope, because sometimes we allow it, sometimes we don't. It's like, I guess it just depends who you are or what person that you ask. So I guess, you know, sometimes we make a boogeyman of it, sometimes we don't. I remember Eminem, he said something like twice as bad, and it was okay. And so, but Joe Rogan does have a pattern. I went back today and looked at some of his greatest highlights. And what we gonna do? Let's look at some of what Joe Rogan has said, and let's break down some of the context. I'm not going to stop it a lot and do a whole lot of talking through it. But what I am going to do is let you hear it so you can kind of hear what he thinks about race. And I'm going to say it right off of the top. I'm going to say it right here. No matter what he builds on and what he thinks, the clip that India Arie played, well, there's a clip, and I'm not sure if India Arie played it. I'm going to re-look at that montage. And he was talking about going to the movies to see Planet of the Apes, and I'm not giving his verbatim words, but he was like, hey, so we got with this guy. He didn't know no English. We asked him if it was a good neighborhood. He told us it was. And we got to the movie theater, and when we went in, we were like really in the jungle. We was like really in the Planet of the Apes. There was no white people there. And so when you want to talk about context, who texting me right now? Why you dinging me? So when you want to talk about context, I understand that's one thing. But you can't change that context. That context is right there. I completely understand what you mean by that. I don't have to hear, 50 seconds before and 50 seconds after to understand what that means, because you weren't referencing something somebody else said. Those were your thoughts. So we're going to listen to a little bit of Joe Rogan, because he's going to say what he thinks of race, and I'm going to say, the N-word, and I'm going to tell you guys what I think about all this.
Yeah. I have video of him saying, yeah, but have you ever slept with 20 supermodels to this black guy? And when the black guy came up, he goes, what's up, my N-word? Like he said the
To you?
No. To this black guy. He
said
yelled
that to him?
he yelled something to this black guy. So this black guy comes up and puts down his food. And he goes, what's up, my N-word? And I was
I'm
like,
scared of saying that word. It's weird.
I don't like saying it, man. Because then nowadays people make it ringtones and shit.
Well, it's a fucking problem. Magic words are never good, folks. It's not good. It's not good because it makes them more valuable when you say it now. It holds more power. Becomes a more loaded word. And Lenny Bruce argued about that in like 1950s. It was one of his bits. It was like one of his most controversial bits. He would point people out in the audience and call, there's a nigger. There's a spick.
Jesus.
There's a kike.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. It was a crazy, crazy bit. And at the time, like, people had no idea where he was going with it.
See, and I've seen a few of the montages, and that's one of the times where they're showing him saying the word. And so I guess whether you're going to be mad at it is contingent on whether you think that other people should be able to say it or not. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think that he should be saying it. I don't think he should be saying it in his broadcast. I think part of the reason that he's doing it is because he wants to be able to say, well, I'm taking away the power by saying it, essentially. By making it a word that's so offensive, by giving it, so much, by weaponizing it, he's saying that gives it more power. So if we just say it like it doesn't mean nothing, then eventually it won't mean nothing. Now, I don't agree with that philosophy. I don't agree with that philosophy at all. And besides agreeing with that philosophy, I don't think that, okay, the same people who are going after Whoopi Goldberg right now, or who are mad at her, the people in which the last name she possesses, those people, they wouldn't accept Joe Rogan saying it in any type of context, whether he's saying it in reference to something, or whether he's saying it just straight out of hate, or whether he's saying it like reading it out of a book. But when he's saying nigger, he's trying to say it passively, like, if I just say it, it shouldn't be a big deal because I'm taking away the power. And I also think it's part of his bravado, like, forget that. I'm going to say it. They say it. I'm going to say it. And I think that goes along with how he tries to say, I'm going to put on people that go against the narrative. Because he does try to put on people who do not go with whatever is popular. And I think that's what he's trying to do at the same time. But at the same time, I do get a little bit of bigot in there. And this is my personal opinion. Now that I've been watching him and just kind of like massaging some of this stuff that he has been saying. It's just the way that he tries to push it over. See, the guy right here says, I don't feel comfortable saying that. And my point is this. If somebody does not feel comfortable saying it, why would you try to goad them into saying it? Why would you try to make them comfortable saying it if they already are uncomfortable saying it?
There's a spick.
Jesus.
There's a kike.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. It was a crazy, crazy bit. And at the time, like, people had no idea where he was going with it because nobody had ever done that kind of comedy before. But he was essentially saying that the more you use those words, the more they lose their power, and the more they'll never have the ability to hurt some child's feelings. And it was pretty profound, especially considering that he had,
And I'm going to be honest, I always find that white guys who want to say nigger or nigga, or they want to be able to rap along, and when that word comes up, they all use the same argument right here. Well, basically, and also, you guys say it, and so why can't we say it? And so that's always like the standard line to say something. And also, like when he was talking about the comedian who said nigger, and then he went on to say talked about some other people in a profane way. I think people do that to kind of soften the blow. Like, well, see, I said it about them too. But you see, even myself, I couldn't say it verbatim. I don't want to say certain words. I don't want to call those other ethnicities and other races words that are designated directly to hurt and demean them. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. Taking away the power is just me not saying it. Is me not saying it. There is no part of me that looks at somebody else saying something demeaning to themselves and says, you know what? I want a part of that. I want to be able to say it. I want to be able to say it. In fact, I want to help you guys take away the power in what's demeaning to you by me just being able to say it. I just want to say it. I just want to say it. So what he's trying to say to me, it really doesn't make any sense. It's not even really logical. It's just something to say to give you an excuse to say something that you know is offensive to people. But also, I also wonder, like, I'm going to take it to the Spotify side. Who is in their executive boards? Like, who's making these decisions? Because don't forget, we're going to get to Joe Budden, who had to leave Spotify because he couldn't get the paper. They wasn't trying to give him that much. But they got $100 million for Joe Rogan. And I'm going to be honest with you, just as of until I found this out, I was almost not championing Joe Rogan, but I was giving him, and I still give him credit for having people come on his show that will go against the status quo. See, multiple things can happen at the same time, but I do think he is way too comfortable, and I think his reasoning to say the word, I think it's just not palatable. It's not here for me. I don't want it. All right.
Use those words, the more they lose their power, and the more they'll never have the ability to hurt some child's feelings. And it was pretty profound, especially considering that he had realized like what happens when you censor things and censor people. He figured that out in the 1960s somehow. He figured out like that this is counterproductive. Like you can't demonize a word.
What you say right here, Stanley Thomas, I see you. He says he really thinks that he's safe just because he got his own podcast. This is America, the land built on lynching. Ain't nobody safe. You preaching. You preaching? Oh boy, you preaching. You're not lying, because I really think that he thought because, hey, I'm insulated. I've kind of threw that word out there, I'm trying to normalize it. I could push up against the, the establishment. We still cool, right? And the way that they've kind of turned on him, even the White House is like, hey, we need to take Joe Rogan off the air. They're not just coming out saying it like that, but they're saying that Spotify, y'all need to do something about him. So, hey, babe. Boy, you preaching. Let me get back over here.
Words just convey intent, like we were talking about earlier. Like the hardest thing in the world is to convey your thoughts through your words. And to make certain words supercharged and decide certain words have like magic fucking powers in the game and they can jump 3 steps. No.
That word does have magic powers in the game, and it can jump 3 steps. Like, I do not understand him wanting to break it down to make that word be okay when it's just not okay. Some things are just not okay. It's certain things you never should do in front of your mama because it's just morally wrong. It's the person who raised you. There are certain things you should do just as a human being, but there are certain things you should not do. Just out of humanity. Like I said, I have no desire to look at somebody of another ethnicity and say whatever word is designated to demean them. It doesn't be, I'm not like, you know what? That's exactly what I want to say. Why? Well, I do not understand that. Now I'm preaching.
No, they're just fucking words, man. And words are supposed to be flexible, and they're supposed to all contribute to the best possible job you can do of conveying your intent. And as soon as you have like supercharged words that you can't use anymore, well then I have less tools to convey my intent. You have less of an ability to understand what I'm saying, and you're assuming that the exact same word from one sentence to the next has the same content, has the same ability. It means the same thing, because it doesn't always mean the same thing. You know, like if someone can call.
It always mean the same thing when you put the hard ER on it. That's not something that I don't want to. I don't think personally that that's a discussion, so I'm not going to discuss it. You can discuss it amongst yourself, but I'm not discussing that. Every time they're saying it, they have the hard ER on it, and he says, it's just something that everybody says. It's really meaningless. No. Okay, with the A, you can debate that. You can debate that. The hard ER, everybody knows, and don't say it's the same word. It's not. It's spelled differently. How the hell is it the same word?
You a bitch, and if it's your friend, it's funny. Like if Duncan comes over and like, what's up, bitch, and like goes to grab your dick or something, like it'd be hilarious, right? Mm-hmm. Why? Because he's Duncan.
Did he say and go and grab your dick or something? What did he say? I don't. Got a different kind of humor. They got a different kind of humor. Am I the only one that just heard that? And the example he given really don't fit. It really does not fit. I'm going to tell you why it just don't fit. It don't fit because you calling your friend a bitch. And, and it's in fun, in jest. It's something that people do. But nobody calls their friend nigger in jest. Just for fun. Nobody says, "What's up, my nigger?" And see, that is showing his ignorance. And that's why I said I haven't been necessarily attracted to Joe Rogan. It's been more of his guests, because to me, he doesn't really have too much to say or think about. He just, there's not too much there. And so when it comes to the Joe Rogan situation, I looked at his show and I looked at some of the clips of it. Now, you got to pay for it. It's on Spotify. I don't got no Spotify account. And so I see the clips that they put on YouTube. And the clips literally have always been of somebody coming out, and there's different information that I'm not getting to hear from the mainstream media. And I think that's the other problem with that. If they want to really reduce Joe Rogan, then all they got to do is give you both sides of a story. Let you hear all the information and sort it out for yourself. But the simple fact that they don't gives rise to Joe Rogan. And he just kind of sits there and, so, I heard in 1995 that, he's not really charismatic or nothing like that, but I guess he don't have to be.
Like if Duncan comes over and like, what's up, bitch, and like goes to grab your dick or something, like it'd be hilarious, right? Mm-hmm. Why? Because he's Duncan.
That would not be hilarious.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
That is not hilarious. Say it again.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
That ain't right.
Like if Duncan comes over and like, what's up, bitch, and like goes to grab your dick or something, like it'd be hilarious, right? Mm-hmm. Why? Because he's Duncan. Because it's your friend. Whereas if Justin Bieber says it to you and you're, in line in front of him, a big boy, you wouldn't, that doesn't feel good. Or if some guy says that to you, some guy comes up to you like, what's up, bitch? You're like, oh, well, this doesn't feel good.
And I don't know if that matches his bravado either, because Joe Rogan, if I'm not mistaken, I from what I've seen from him a few times, he seems like he tries to be the nuanced, tough guy. And so he's just acting like he wouldn't care if some random guy came up and asked him to call him a bitch. But that's here nor there. But the word bitch and the word nigger are two completely different things, no matter what context that you use the word bitch in. Nigger is never used in a friendly context. Never, never, never. So that is a terrible, 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 terrible comparison, right? So look, what I want to do again, I want to play again what India Arie had to say, because I think what she had to say was very important. And if somebody new was in here, you guys can hear what India Arie said. Make sure that you hit the like button, please. Hit the thumbs up. If you hit the thumbs down, it's cool, but just make sure you come back tomorrow. Give me another try. Come yell at me and call the complaint department. You know what I'm saying? Somebody in there. And they waiting on your call. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to play India Arie again because I do want you to hear it. And even if you heard it the first time, it's good to hear things twice. Let's hear what she has to say about Spotify. Then we're going to move over to the India Arie, Joe Budden side. Talked a lot about Joe Rogan already.
Hey y'all, I want to leave a short message here about why I decided to ask my music be pulled off of Spotify. So check this out.
No white people. Says, okay, take me to this one. And the guy goes, okay. I goes, is that in a good neighborhood? He's like, oh, yeah. Guy barely speaks English. He takes us there. We get out and we're giggling. Oh, we're going to see Planet of the Apes. We walk into Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door and there was no white people. It says, okay, take.
I empathize with the people who are leaving for the COVID disinformation.
We walked into the Planet of the Apes. There were no white people. And also, what I like to do is not just look at him, but look at the other people in the room. And there's another guy in the room that is just having a wonderful time. He's just, hey. Now, if you look at the guy in the brown shirt, it looked like he tried to back back, but he couldn't back back. He couldn't back back. Let me see what's going on. Oh, yeah, and I appreciate you. We up. We going on. Appreciate you, baby Brown. And so, yeah, so he backed back. He was like, But the other guy was over there just yucking it up. Yucking it up. Now, again, I think Joe Rogan, I'm going to talk about him just a little more. I think he have all right to be able to say that. Let me say that again. Let me say it clearly. I think Joe Rogan has every single right to say that. And I think he could say it on his show. But I do think that people have a right to react to it the way they want to react to it. If you want to protest, if you want to say, hey, I don't want to deal with Spotify anymore, then I completely understand that. Because there are consequences to the things that you say. So I don't think that he should be censored. I think that somebody should do something about Spotify's memberships. But just based on his words, I mean, it is what it is. That's how he feels. Taking him off the air don't change how he feels. And Joe Rogan at this point in time, he got enough money, he got enough resources and enough fans. Because if you go look at all of the comments on these things, people, they love what Joe Rogan says. They love what Joe Rogan says. I even see a lot of people in there say, hey, I'm black and I'm not mad at this. This was kind of funny. You know what I'm saying? So he could go get his own servers. He could start his own network. He could run his own show. He could make his own money. So shutting him down, I mean, technically, what would that do? I mean, things are changing nowadays. And unless they, you know what I'm saying, take him out of here. Unless they do that, which, I don't know. Unless they do that, if he doesn't want to stop talking, he don't have to stop talking, and there's nothing they can do. Joe Rogan already got that money. One more time. He already got it. So he could kind of like create his own infrastructure, and he already has this like cult-like following, you dig? So Joe Rogan, I don't know. So I don't think that, it's not illegal what he said. In fact, I think that you can say whatever you want to say too. And I think you already do. But I think it's up to you to know where and when to say it. Now that's the key. It's not what you say, it's where and when you say it. And what are you willing to risk to be able to say it? Now, if there's no consequence to the people that can give consequences, which are the subscribers, the people who listen, and the people who put their music on that platform, then, he will not serve no consequence. But I'm sorry, let me get back to India Arie.
We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door and there was no white people. It says, okay, take.
I empathize with the people who are leaving for the COVID disinformation reasons, and I think that they should.
Now, that's where I disagree with India. If it was just that, I don't disagree because I don't know if that's what they've been spreading, because Information on that moves faster than the subway in New York City. Pew! Be moving fast. So it could be information on Wednesday, and by Friday it could be like, this is the truth. So I don't necessarily agree with that, but everything else India Arie says, I agree with. And what she just played is enough. Some things are inexcusable. That's why I played a clip of Joe Rogan explaining what he thinks about the N-word and how he thinks by saying it takes away the power. But what he's saying in this clip that India Arie is showing right here, it's not about Joe Rogan using the N-word to take away power. It's just about plain like bigotry, disgust, in the jungle. And sometimes it's what you're trying to describe with the word that you use, what automatically comes in somebody's mind when you say it. And look at this boy just yucking it up.
I decided to ask my music be pulled off of Spotify. So check this out.
No white people. Says, okay, take me to this one. And the guy goes, okay. I goes, is that in a good neighborhood? He's like, oh, yeah. Guy barely speaks English. He takes us there. We get out, and we're giggling. Oh, we're going to see Planet of the Apes. We walk into Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door, and there was no white people. It says, okay, take.
I empathize with the people who are leaving for the COVID disinformation reasons, and I think that they should. I also think that Joe Rogan has the right to say what he wants to say. I also think that I have the right to say what I want to say. So as an artist who builds, Spotify is built on the back of the music streaming. So they take this money that's built from streaming and they pay this guy $100 million, but they pay us 0.003% of a penny.
0.003% of a penny. She had to look off to the side to think of how many zeros before the points before she could finally get to a number that was higher than zero.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Just take me off. I don't want to generate money that pays this. Just take me off. That's where I'm at. And I know that I'm actually, to be honest with you, surprised that my statements were picked up, because I thought people weren't really going to listen to me because that's what I'm used to from the industry. But I'm glad that I am being heard, and for that reason, I want to clarify my statement.
I'm glad that she said that she said she didn't think it was going to get picked up, because that's what she's used to from the industry. Again, we got to listen to what people say. Words are important. So her being used to that from the industry means that there is a such thing of suppression of information or suppression of people's thoughts. And so I'm glad that India Arie got to bust through with this, that it is coming on through her. That she on here preaching.
Again, this is why. Watch this.
The nigger thing. Yes. Saying the word nigger.
You've already said nigger.
D is just like nigger. Saying nigger.
She's calling you a nigger. It's like this
boy that he's a nigger and starts calling them niggers. Word nigger. There should be a word like nigger, especially the word nigger. That's our nigger. About niggers. He says nigger. Guy, a nigger. And then our niggers start saying nigger. Allowed to use the word nigger. Out the word nigger. See nigger. Word nigger. Say nigger and you couldn't say nigger. And most nigger.
And I looked at a few of those, and in a lot of them, he's describing somebody saying it or saying, why are you afraid to use the word nigger? Because it shouldn't have the power. Like the first thing I showed you, that's pretty much his baseline premise of it. But my thing is this, him saying it, he still knows that it rubs people the wrong way. And so some people are the antagonists. They're going to do whatever it takes to antagonize people, but he acts like that's not what he's trying to do, even though it is. We're going to look at one of those clips. We're going to look at one of those where he goes on and he says the word nigger. And he says why. And he wasn't saying it out of malice. But again, I don't understand the frequency and the ease of it, even though he's trying to explain the ease of it. His reasoning is, I think it takes away the power. Well, if people say they still don't want you to say it, doesn't it seem like, you could be decent enough not to do it? But I also think that's part of that bravado. And I'm not going to lie. I think that's part of the reason why so many people love him is because they agree with this. They also want to be able to say, nigger, something like my forefathers got to say nigger. I want to say it too. How many of you guys just have like an inclination inside, just some burning, yearning desire to find somebody of a different ethnicity and say whatever it is designated to demean them? How many of you guys are just trying to just reason with it and go on shows and talk to your friends and try to pressure them to say it? Why is that so important to Joe Rogan?
So we know how.
Let me go over here. I'm going to come back to India Arie, and I'm going to show you what I mean, because I feel like I'm talking about Joe Rogan, and I think I got something that can explain what I'm trying to say about his insatiable desire to just make it okay to say nigger. It's almost like a passion he has. Like,
incidentally, regarding the N-word, and I'm sure Jamie will now double check what I'm saying, as he always does. There was a dean at some university, I think, out maybe in Seattle, I could be wrong, that at some point had suggested, someone had asked which book, a student had asked which book should I read, or I can't remember the exact story. And I think the title of the book was The N-Word. And she had, I think the dean was a woman, if I'm not mistaken, had simply recommended that book.
But she said the word out loud.
Or said he or she, I can't remember again the person's sex.
That's how you know that he already knows not to just say it. He got to build up the courage to say it, because right there they keep describing it as what? The N-word. Oh, so they didn't say the word. You gotta go ahead and build it on up.
Got into trouble. So, I wonder if we shouldn't just sort of demystify this word. I mean, if people weren't so, I mean, we have to now say the N-word.
Right.
We now have to say
right. And the guy he's talking to, they are so frustrated that they just cannot say nigger. I mean, maybe we should just demystify it. And do you guys hear them asking if they should demystify any other demeaning words? Do you hear that? Is that a topic of conversation? But when it comes to the N-word, when it comes to the word nigger, I keep saying it, not because I want to, because I know that I have to just describe it. That's because that's what they want to do so bad. Is there any other race of people or any other ethnicity, whichever one you want to break it down to, do you find this scholarly conversation on being able to say what offends them with such depth and concern? And maybe we should just demystify it. Maybe we should just be able to just say it. Because this professor wrote a book and the title of it was The N-word. And to say the N-word, it's so troubling. I would rather just take the short path and just say nigger. But why is that so important to these guys?
He or she, I can't remember again the person's sex, got into trouble. So, I wonder if we shouldn't just sort of demystify this word. I mean, if people weren't so, I mean, we have to now say the N-word.
Right.
We now have
Yes,
to
you
say
do.
the R word. I got banned from Twitter for 12 hours because at one point I was...
Did he just... I just got banned from Twitter for 12 hours.
interacting with some schmuck who I called retarded, degenerate, schmuck, whatever it was. I can't remember the exact combination of insults. And I was banned for using the R word. So, I mean, where does this end? I mean, how many more words do we have to remove from the lexicon? I mean, don't...
See, this is the thing about the words. I do think that sometimes we do go too far down this path of what has to be taken away, what can be said, and what can be said. But he got in trouble, air quotes, 12-hour suspension. He didn't get taken to jail. He didn't get beat up. He didn't get punched in the mouth. None of that. He got suspended for 12 hours on Twitter. Oh my cyber goodness. Twitter is its own company. They could ban you for saying it. You didn't get arrested. You can say it. You just couldn't say it on Twitter. And so when it comes down to that, I do think it's a slippery slope, but I think there are just some words, there are just some places you just don't go. And the R word, if that word is demeaning and it hurts that community of people, if it hurts, then I can understand not saying it. And see, he's not a comedian. It's not a stand-up comedy act. It's none of that. It's him in a scholarly way trying to make it okay for him to be able to say nigger.
Give these words so much power. Don't be so sensitive. I mean, I know we've talked about these kinds of issues in the past, but does it not seem to you outrageous that someone who recommends a book with the title being the N-word gets into trouble? I mean, it's insane.
Well, there's an even better one. Netflix, there was an executive at Netflix that was forced to resign due to my friend Tom Segura's comedy special. And my friend Tom Segura has a bit in his act about how there's certain words that are just gone, you can't use anymore. And he says, retard. He's like, that word, you can't use that word anymore. And he goes on, and it's not about using that word. He's not justifying the use of the word. He's just simply stating that this is a word that you could no longer use. So,
okay. So, I mean, I understand it in the context of saying these things are being taken away. But trying to re-normalize it is what's weird to me. I just don't get that, especially when it comes to the word nigger. I'm going to be honest with you. To where it's just like everybody could say it. And so that's kind of building on what Joe Rogan is saying. He go down here a little bit, and they're still talking about it. But this guy is really hell-bent on being able to say nigger. He just wants to be able to say it.
American College of Surgeons and the editor-in-chief of a journal called Surgery News had written an editorial a few years ago where he was talking about the antidepressant benefits of coming in contact with sperm. In other words, and this was based on a peer-reviewed scientific paper. Actually, two of the authors of that paper.
All right, we got a lot of context. We got a lot of what they were talking about. I'm kind of tired of hearing them talk right there. What you guys think? We still in here? We still in here? Do I need to wake you up? Wake you up! Wake your gold mouth ass up. Hey, because we're going to get over to the Joe Budden side going on over here, because Joe Budden, I do think what went on with him is integral in this whole conversation when we're talking about Spotify. So that means I got to go back to India Arie real quick. I'm going to skip over the Joe Rogan part. Now we're going to get down to what India Arie is saying directly about Spotify. And then we're going to get into the Joe Rogan stuff where not the Joe Rogan stuff, I'm sorry. It's the year of the Joes. But then we're going to get over to the Joe Budden stuff. Because like I said, that really, really goes into it. And so let me get over here.
Hey, y'all. I want to leave a short
Move this
message here about
down,
why I
and we're
decided
going to skip forward. I've heard enough of what he had to say.
So we know how social media can be. Things can be doctored. People are taken out of context. It's happened to me many times. However, I want to be clear in no uncertain terms. Where I stand on this is that he shouldn't even be uttering the word. Don't even say it under any context. Don't say it. That's where I stand. It's my right to stand there. I have always stood there. I have other feelings about it, but those are nuances that are not meant for this moment. He shouldn't even be saying it. And so the confluence of energies comes into play here. So now we have this person who is offensive to a lot of people, who's paid $100 million. Spotify, the backbone of Spotify is the music. So you pay the musicians that are the backbone of your business 0.003 to 0.005% of a penny, and you take this money that you generate over here, because all the rest of it goes somewhere. The subscription fees go somewhere. So you take this money that's generated over here and you use it to invest in this guy. Do what you want, but take me off.
And India Arie, she's very articulate. She's very well versed in what she's saying. She seems like, because people like to make people look crazy in 2021. And it still stands out to me how she says she's glad that people got to hear it because she's used to things she's saying not making it out. And India Arie is very credible based on what she's saying at this point in time. So I can't wait to see what Spotify comes out and says and what they do. And I hope anyone doesn't try to discredit what she's saying based on the articulation of what she's saying, because India Arie is super articulate in what she's saying. She's super relatable. And, I'm not going to look at what she's saying on an emotional basis because of those reasons. I heard what this guy is saying. I heard what Joe Rogan is saying. It's just the ease of it. And again, I don't think he shouldn't be able to say it. I just think that you should be okay with people saying, I don't want to deal with the company that's going to pay you $100 million to say stuff like that.
But take me off. Or pay me too. And I don't just mean me, I mean us. Artists like me. Pay us too. Pay podcasters of color too. So Artist Relations from Spotify called me yesterday and they asked me what I want, and I've been thinking about this all night.
Spotify hit her up. Spotify hit her on the phone, and because they know, she said, pay us our money. Go ahead and give us our checks. We making 0.03% on the penny. Give me my money. But you do see how they'll reach out to somebody singularly instead of just changing what they're doing overall. And I'm paying attention. That's why I say I like what India Arie is saying, because she could have said, okay, well, at this point in time, let me pivot and make a great deal for myself. But now she said, they called me last night and asked me what I want. Okay, India. I see you, India. Here we go. You're preaching.
Relations from Spotify called me yesterday and they asked me what I want, and I've been thinking about this all night. I'm not going to say it all here, but what I want to say to you is something that I already knew, but I want you to know that they said it last night. Most of the streams on Spotify are Black music.
Most of the streams on Spotify are Black music. Let me run that back so you can hear it again directly from her. Let me do it again.
You know that they said it last night. Most of the streams on Spotify are Black music.
And I wanted to play that twice so you can hear it. Everybody in the front, to the back, to the left, to the right. So don't ever think that Black people don't make a difference if we were to say, hold up, wait.
Hold up, wait a minute. Something ain't right.
And just stop dealing with people, because we play more of a consumer role than we may think sometimes.
But we know that if you're paying attention at all, you understand the role of Black music in this world. So that's a deeper nuance.
All right. So you heard what she had to say. And now I've been talking about Joe Budden. See, I couldn't say what I had to get to so you can understand why he here. You know what I'm saying? I had to go ahead and put everything in context so it'll make sense when I bring Joe Budden's in. Okay, now, months ago, I don't know if it's been a full year yet, but Joe Budden, who is a pioneer in podcasting, and I mean, and it's not even on a racial lines, just a pioneer in broadcasting, but a pioneer especially in the podcasting field. He's been doing it in different ways for the longest. He would get online, document his life. You know, he set a lot of trends when it's come down to this podcast thing. And so Joe Budden was on Spotify, and Joe Budden was making some money, and people was like, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But Joe Budden seems to know his worth and his value. And so Joe Budden wasn't getting what he think he was valued. Now, it was a lot of money to some people, but it wasn't a lot of money for what Joe Budden was putting into it. That's the way Joe Budden felt. And Joe Budden stood on that. He stood on it. He stood on it in the face of people who didn't want him to, and they called him crazy. Almost reminiscent to Monique. You know, the actor, the actress, the comedian, the wonderful talent Monique that everybody wanted to throw away because she was speaking up saying, hey, nah, they are not giving me my value. They were giving Amy Schumer the tripled amount of money they were giving her. And Monique does a lot of work. She was working. She's super funny. And it's almost a thing to where people, just because it's a lot of money, if I make $50,000 and I just hear about somebody getting offered $500,000, to me, that might be a lot of money. I'm like, you should just take it. You should just take it. But when your counterparts of another race who put up about the same amount of work are getting 3, 4, 5 times more, by always saying, well, you should just take it, means that you should always just settle for that. And I do think, and if we pay attention when it comes down to business and people that think they get done wrong in business, when people ask for their value when it comes to these big corporations and these networks and things like that, they always end up getting labeled crazy, hard to work with every single time. And in the midst of us listening to those labels, taking them on and reiterating them ourselves, we never really pay attention to the fact that maybe these people's value is worth way more than we think, especially in contrast to what they pay their counterparts. But like I said, if you make $50,000 a year and you hear about somebody getting offered $1.2 million, $7-8 million, you like, man, you crazy if you don't take that. But if that person's value is $500 million, because they're going to help somebody make $2-3 billion, why do we always want them to settle? And I don't want to say always, that's way too much of a blanket statement, but why do we want them to settle? Sometimes, just keep pressing. But Joe Budden's, but we're going to play a little bit of this Joe Budden's podcast, and this is from last year, so you can hear his reasoning.
So we get back to what is a stream worth, our age-old question. And that's an important question to podcasters.
Mind you, look, I'm going to start that over. Look at the opening. If you can see it in the top corner, this stream is being brought to you by Spotify. And he on here going bodyguard hard on Spotify. Yes, he is. Joe Budden, like I said, some people don't really like Joe Budden. I'm going to be honest with you. I think Joe Budden stands for what he believes in, and I think that's very hard nowadays, especially in the days of popularity where your popularity carries you to your next buck. So sometimes a lot of these guys got to just go along to get along just so they can keep getting the bag. But every now and then you find somebody like Joe who gonna go ahead and open up the show like literally. I'm not saying he's dissing. Got a little button happy. I'm not saying that he's dissing Spotify, but what he's definitely doing is he's showing you this is where they did me wrong. And in his opening, it says Spotify, and he is going bodyguard hard. Let's get over here and let's play this. Let's play this.
So we get back to what is a stream worth, our age-old question. And that's an important question to podcasters, especially. Right. Because in music, they have set the rules. And the rules are in place for 3-minute bodies of work. In podcasting, we at hours.
You were on.
So I'm highlighting some of the confusion. I'm just highlighting for the audience why you want to go into 2 years ago. You want to go into an exclusive deal with somebody who's assuring you you'll get all the information and analytics that you need. But because I come from the bottom, my analogy is the strip club for the people that are having a hard time understanding.
And what Joe Budden is doing is, and I watched this as it was happening. I paid close attention to it. What he's trying to say basically is like streaming and podcasting, and when you're on for hours at a time or long amounts of time, there was no mathematical equation to how much it was worth. So he said, so it was easier to just get onto a company that's going to just pay you just your money, period, point blank. But what he said something very important, and I think sometimes people miss this. He said, but he wanted to get all the analytics. To get all the analytics, and you want all the analytics because once you got the numbers, you can understand the value.
So we get back to what is a stream worth, our age-old question. And that's an important question to podcasters, especially.
Right.
Because in music, they have set the rules. And the rules are in place for 3
They have set the rules. But see, this is different.
minute bodies of work. In podcasting, we at hours.
You were on.
So I'm highlighting some of the confusion. I'm just highlighting for the audience why you want to go into 2 years ago. You want to go into an exclusive deal with somebody who's assuring you you'll get all the information and analytics that you need. But because I come from the bottom, my analogy is the strip club for the people that are having a hard time understanding and following me. We've all been, right?
Yeah. A few times.
All right, you guys, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to skip up a little bit because Joe talks about a lot of things in this podcast. And to be honest with you, if you're a podcaster or if you do something like that, I think that this was actually very educational because he breaks down a lot. He breaks down the insight of what goes on in the office. You know, the place where you go to get a deal or where you trying to figure out the value of something. And that's why I said he was a pioneer when it comes to this, because he's figuring out the value of something that does not have a value, and he's trying to figure that out at the same time that big corporations and entities are trying to figure it out so they can reduce it for the podcaster, for the little man. For the person with the talent. They're trying to figure out a way to put the same structure to where the top make all the money and just kind of throw you what they want. Joe Rogan, I know you wish you can say this. They trying to give us nigga pennies. And the thing is like Joe Budden is one of those guys that it just, like, I'm not going for that. I'm not going for that. So I'm going to skip up a little bit and I'm going to play some other stuff that I think is important. Just because I don't want to keep you here forever on this show. It was like 20 minutes. But let me skip up a little bit.
Some of these rules that y'all are trying to put into effect, it's an old game. It's an old game. I come from music, which means I've been robbed and scammed for 18 years of my career in a game that I had no say-so on the rules that were being put in place. Podcasting, not so much, buddy. This is new ground. All you niggas is new here. Spotify, my contract with y'all, I helped design it.
Now
y'all
remember,
didn't know.
Now remember, they gave Joe Rogan $100 million. And they didn't want to give Joe Budden, I think what it was like 8 million, 6 million. I don't want to tell you the exact number because I don't know. It was, when I say 100 million is an astronomically higher amount, astronomically higher amount than what they were willing to give Joe Budden. And he's the one helping to create the platform to be able to give somebody like Joe Rogan all that money. And Joe Budden has way more personality. He's a lot more interesting. Joe Rogan gets people that goes against the grain. They both kind of go against the grain. And so if we're going to look at them as individual podcasters, if we're just analyzing talent, if we're just analyzing entertainment or news value or ability, I don't see why, and this is just my perspective, I don't see why Joe Rogan would be worth so much more than the person that helped you create the first contract when it came to podcasting.
Podcasting, not so much, buddy. This is new ground. All you niggas is new here. Spotify, my contract with y'all, I helped design it. Y'all didn't know. There's an entire ecosystem here that you have to respect.
Have to.
If you're looking to feed the soil.
If you're looking to feed the soil. If you're looking to feed the soil. And I'm going to put on my Cash App here sooner or later and you can feed the soil.
See, everybody's not looking to feed the soil. Some are just looking to take the fruit.
Right.
Gimlet comes.
It's a bar.
$250. Guess what? We took our little money, guys. None of y'all complained. None of y'all said nothing to me. We didn't do what the average artist would do in that position, because what we've been taught to do in this position is, while the leverage is at an all-time high, threaten stoppage of work.
Right.
The market at the time, 2 years ago, quickly changed. 2 years ago, podcasters didn't know where to go to get a bag. We didn't have the relationships. Hey, a few months in, everybody was giving out a bag.
Listen, he giving up game about leverage. And remember what India Arie is saying. Look at what India Arie is doing. What did she say? Somebody from Spotify called me last night and asked me what I want. What Joe Budden is talking about is leverage, and when to and when not to give up the leverage. And he's saying at this point in time, he said at first we was in the wilderness. We didn't have no plugs. We didn't know nobody when it came to podcasting. And then
it's the reason most of you podcasters are rushing, searching for a deal with some high numbers to fucking announce. You don't value the freedom the way that you should. We'll get to that part later.
You don't value the freedom the way that you should. All right. And so earlier we heard Joe Budden talking about the price of podcasting. How much is, what is the value? And then he goes on to talk about how he helped Spotify create their first contract. And I think us as consumers and people who watched him help Spotify build out their podcasting network to offer him, oh, I know Joe Rogan want to be able to say this, nigga pennies. They wanted to offer him nigga pennies. But Joe Rogan gets the 100 million. And that's what India Arie is saying. For somebody who says things that are so offensive, how does he get so much more money than everybody else? And I think also, I'm going to be honest with you, I think a lot of people that look like Joe Rogan agree with Joe Rogan. Go look at the comments. You can go on YouTube and type in Joe Rogan says nigger. And the different clips will pop up. And then go read the comments of people who are Joe Rogan fans. I think sometimes that is a very settling thing to do. When you go find out what people say when they have the ability to not be seen and they can say what they really think, when you find out what they agree with, it can be unsettling if you're not ready, but you got to stay ready. And that's why I be preaching. You got to stay ready. You can't be, and like I said, that's why I think he should be able to say it. I always like knowing what people have to say, how they feel. So I can know who I want to keep over there, so I can know what type of ideology I want to block, so I know who I want to do business with and who I don't, so I know who I want to support. So again, when it comes to the Joe Rogan piece, I'm like, I'm good with him bringing on people that give a different point of view, but now I can't rock with it no more. I can't listen to it. So I don't know what I'm going to do to get these other points of views. I'll figure it out. We're going to figure it out. Let me skip forward a little bit more into the Joe Budden saga with Spotify, and then we're going to leave that alone. We're going to leave that alone for the rest of the evening. All right, let me start this up right here.
You're going to think for a second.
Yeah. Because you can't lose.
All of these M's came, and granted, I understand that because the greater that Joe does outside this podcast, this podcast does great. Right. Like, I get it. It goes hand in hand. Listen, it's no beef. Synergy. No beef there. But you paid Gimlet $250. April came, 2019. You gave Parcast $250. You have a whole streaming farm of podcasts. You run Blank Air Podcast today.
What they were doing was building an infrastructure for more podcasts. They were buying companies. They were acquiring things. They were building a bigger podcasting infrastructure, making it a bigger business based on the fact that the Joe Budden podcast was doing so well. That's what he's saying. You know what I'm saying?
Doesn't matter because everything is cool in year one. Our numbers are going through the roof. We are rocking. We are number one. So much so, we get approached 8 months into a 2-year deal to say, hey, we would like to further business. I'm applauding you guys. I'm applauding you for the foresight of recognizing a profitable business and looking to lock in way ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking directly to the company. Like, they're paying him for this podcast, and he's looking at the camera telling them about themselves. And he said, I was applauding y'all. I was applauding you. He gave him And then what happened, Joe?
That's awesome. But it wasn't a podcast deal. It was a podcast deal. It was a pull-up deal. It was a Rory album.
And if you don't know what pull-up is, the pull-up was a whole nother show that he did on his own. I think he would go places and interview people, but they wanted that too. They wanted it all.
Deal. Whatever Maul went and did on the side, it was a Maul deal. We own 50% of that. Parks, you and Gift, throw that shit out the window. We own all of your shit. Eric, just saying, you're not taping nothing, are you? Because we own that too. That's what happened 8 months into this contract. Know what I said? It's silly.
Right.
Why would I acknowledge this when any graph that you pull up is to the moon for us?
Why would we take your nigga pennies when we already see we can make way more money than this, when we see we can do way better than this? See?
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
All up. All the way up. Fat Joe, Remy Ma, hey. Any graph is all the way up. Hey, you know what? I said no quickly. Brashly, abrasively. No, do me a favor. Don't present that to me again. It's common sense.
And I heard the way he said brashly, abrasively. And what I've been noticing is when it comes down to corporations and bigger entities talking to the lowers or the employees or whatever, when it seems like the numbers are bigger or big to most of us common people, we think that they should never speak abrasively. But you gave him an offensive offer. So you're giving an offensive offer, so you should be able to return that offense sternly and abrasively. Because this is business. You guys are talking millions and millions of dollars, and you guys want to give me an offensive offer and have me answer you in a polite, nice, palatable way. I don't understand that thinking. I do not understand that. How are you going to get respected doing that? How are you going to stop people from thinking that they can make you offers like that?
I have a year left on this deal.
Right. Yeah.
If you're offering me 7 figures now for all of this bullshit, why would I not wait the year to see what's going on? Master P gave it to you on Solange's album. It's the same thing. I can't quote this, but it seemed they didn't like that.
Of course. You don't say.
I could be wrong in that. Me and Ian and I felt like they didn't like that. We could not confirm that. And that was in July, August.
A year ago.
2019. I'm just painting the timeline from my perspective.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to leave that right there with the Joe Budden podcast, like I said. I enjoy this perspective. You should never have too much pride to be able to say that somebody is making a good point. I do notice that a lot of people that do the same things don't like to say when they've learned something from somebody. And I learned something from him just watching that. I learned about leverage, timing, and I was very surprised that the numbers were that high, but I was also surprised at the value. The value was worth way more than the numbers they were offering that man. And so when we talk about what India Arie was saying, how they get 0, 0, 0, I mean, I don't want to put too many or too little zeros, but I know it was more than 2 zeros than a point and a 3% of a penny per stream. And then you look at the fact that they didn't want to give Joe Budden near his value to the point where he had to walk away. And people called him crazy. There's something going on, in my opinion, with Spotify. Because the reason Neil Young, the guy in the middle, the white-haired guy, he wants to walk away because he wants his music pulled because he doesn't like the fact that Joe Budden has people, not Joe Budden, I'm sorry, he has Joe Rogan has people come on his show who says things that's, go against what you're supposed to be hearing about, that one thing. And so that's the reason he doesn't like him. So Neil Young, I don't agree with that. I'm going to take him out of that. Neil Young, we done with you for tonight. All right. And there's other things about Neil Young I might have to get to in another segment or another show, but Neil Young, we're going to take you out of this. So when it comes down to it, I personally don't think that I could rock with Joe Rogan. I don't think that I'll participate in his clips and do the whole Spotify thing. I don't think that I could do that. For the simple fact that now that I really sit back and I pay attention to how they did Joe Budden's, but how they have all this money for Joe Rogan, and at a time where these companies are folding like beach chairs, whenever they get pressure, they stood behind Joe Rogan when Neil Young said that he wanted his music taken off. And it wasn't just Neil Young, it was other people. There were people in the world of music that are like superstars. If I'm not mistaken, it was Barbara Streisand. It was a whole bunch of people who agreed with Neil Young, and they still stood behind Joe Rogan. At the same time, they weren't willing to budge or, acquiesce to the demands or to the, I don't even want to say demands, to the value of Joe Budden's. So something is wrong with that. None of that really makes sense to me. And, India Arie have a point. I'm going to go ahead and rock with India Arie. That's enough. Go ahead and rock with India Arie on this. I think that she is correct in her stance. I think she should be respected in what she's saying, you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Hey, if you guys came in for the win, I appreciate it. Thank you. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you. Share, share, share. Let me see. Chopper with the LOL. Wow. What is that? Who does that? I don't know, but I like this one right here.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Oh, my cyber goodness. Yeah, you guys. So what do you guys think? Is India Arie on to something? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to walk away from Spotify? What are you willing to do? Or are all these people wrong? And what do you think? Is it okay for Joe Rogan to have this real deep desire to say nigger? Have no clue why. Hey, you guys, I'm going to be back later on. We're going to keep this moving. This is Soapbox Heroes. I am getting out of here. And I'll be back soon. That's it.